with that, let me invite Mr. Ajeet Bajpai to come and give his remarks.
The chair, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to thank Mr. Raji Pillai for giving me an opportunity to come and share my thoughts. And what I'm going to talk about is securing the critical information infrastructure in the power sector. Sorry. And some associated concerns that are there. My compliments to the India Smart Grid Forum. In 2015, they undertook a task in collaboration with NCIIPC to carry out a cybersecurity preparedness survey of the power sector. And it was a seminal work. It finally translated into a manual for cybersecurity in the power sector. And the fruitfulness of that manual can be gauged from the fact that the top 10 recommendations were picked up by the Ministry of Power and issued as a directive to the complete power sector. The second thing which happened was that the Bureau of Indian Standards, and I'm referring to my notes now because it's very difficult to remember figures at this age, Part 2 of IS 16335, which deals with the protection of CII assets in generation, transmission and distribution, and IS 15959, which deals with the data exchange and smart meters. They are based on this manual. Wonderful work done, but that was 2015. 4 years down the line, we find that the cyber threat landscape, threat vectors have changed, evolved, and we now need to be prepared for a different set of challenges. The problem is, as I understand, India has probably got the largest single grid, and it has about 35 control centers, if my figures are right. But give or take a few between friends doesn't matter. The fact is that any breach at any of the hierarchical levels can have a cascading effect in the complete grid. That's a major challenge. The other challenge that I see is that there's an overlap, and this is an ever-increasing overlap of IT and OT, which at one time were segregated, air-gapped, so there was no issue. But now it's getting muddled. We have whole proliferation of IoT devices. We're talking of supply chain contamination in embedded systems. Where does that leave us? Do we have a mechanism, and in the power sector especially, do we have a mechanism where you can say with any amount of certainty that the component of the device they're using does not have a vulnerability, intentional or otherwise, does not have a backdoor? So it's a major threat which the power sector faces, and that's a cause for concern for a national nodal agency like mine. And for the uninitiated, let me tell you what a critical information infrastructure is, because that's where I started. Critical information infrastructure is defined in the IT Act as those IT resources, incapacitation of which will have a debilitating impact on national security, national economy, public health, and public safety. Now, if you close your eyes and look at the power sector, it's probably the only sector which will affect all four simultaneously. You take any other sector, it may affect national economy. Something happens to the banking sector, it may affect national economy. It does not affect national security. It has no impact on public safety, public health. But power sector, I mean, I can give you so many use cases where if you close your eyes and think back, simultaneously you will have an effect on national security, national economy, public health, public safety. So obviously, power sector is, as far as criticality is concerned, top in our focus. And not only that, it also has an impact on the other sectors. anything affecting power, if anything affecting the banking sector does not affect the transport sector. But anything affecting the power sector will affect the transport sector, telecom sector, banking sector because of the interdependencies. It's a major cause for concern for an agency like us. Another cause of concern is that we are aware, as a national agency, we are aware the kind of threats that the power sector faces. But the number of incidents which get reported to us are not commensurate with the threat that we see. So obviously there is a gap. I can understand the reluctance of power sector entities not to report the incidents, which is fine. But then when you look at it a little deeper, you will find that the common refrain is that although there might have been an attempt, it did not result in an incident. So that's why it did not get reported. I want all of you to look at it from a slightly different angle. The fact is that maybe your systems were so robust that you were able to block that threat. But what about the other organizations and entities whose cybersecurity is not as robust as yours? So wouldn't it have been nice if you had shared the threat that you faced with a central agency like CERT or NCIIPC or anyone, so that these other entities in the same type of sector, subsector, is secured? The other way is that maybe the breach has already happened, and since it did not manifest itself in anything which was tangible or which you could see, you not reported, and you are blissfully unaware that your system stands compromised to be incapacitated at a time of someone's choosing. It's a very serious threat, gentlemen, and it's not something which I am making up. We have found vulnerabilities in systems, and when you do a traceback, you find that this compromise has been there for months. And anyway, anyone who's a cybersecurity professional will tell you that the time between detection and compromise is a few months. It's something very serious, gentlemen. You need to look at it. And the power sector had done its job by actually creating certs. And they had created certs, not one, but 5 of them. CERT thermal, CERT hydro, CERT transmission, CERT distribution, CERT load dispatch. The nodal agencies or the nodal organizations were also nominated by the Ministry of Power. But then as a government agency, when we try and take an update on what is the status of these certs, I'm afraid there's a lot of work which remains to be done, and I would request the Ministry of Power to give this a little more impetus. Since I'm running short of time, and although this 10 minutes, part of it was also taken by Ravi, but I'm not complaining. I'll quickly come down to the 5 or 6 recommendations that I have. You can call it recommendations, you can call it food for thought, whatever. The first and the foremost thing that every power sector entity needs to do is, please identify your critical information infrastructure. Gentlemen, it's necessary. You cannot possibly provide the same level of protection to your complete organization. So you need to identify what is critical. I've already told you the definition of what CII is. So do that. We are there to assist you. NCIIPC is there. It's we are the nodal agency to do that. So we'll assist you. We can do all the hand-holding that is required. Identify it. Gentlemen, the protection cover that you will get from the government, in addition to what you are already doing, I'm sure you people are doing a damn good job, have very robust and very resilient systems in place. But believe me, an additional layer or 2 of security over and above what you already have will not hurt you. It can only assist you. The second thing is that the top management, I'm not talking about only CISOs, I'm talking about the top management of the power sector entities, need to, after the identification of the CIS, sit down and carry out a risk assessment in their sector. It is a known fact that you cannot fill all the voids and you cannot plug all the gaps. Impossible. It's a utopia. It will not happen. But Once you know what your voids are, you know what is the risk associated with not plugging that void. And then the residual risk, it's your choice. Are you prepared, is your organization prepared to live with the residual risk? It's a very conscious decision. And once you have got that, you will be able to have your business continuity plans, CCNPs and other things in place, and a robust, I would say, mitigation strategy. So that is something which needs to be looked at. The third thing is sharing of information, gentlemen. I've already said that once. It is important for you to share information laterally with the other sister organizations and vertically with two nodal agencies which are national, CERTIN and NCIIPC. The reasons I will not get into, I mean, it's very obvious. It's like stating the obvious. Because this is where the crunch lies. An incident happens at a particular entity. If that information is speedily in real time passed on to central agencies like us, we'll probably be able to plug or prevent a major attack across the sector. There is also a strong case, I feel now, with the kind of complexity that power sector is having, that we need to probably have cybersecurity specialists trained in in power sector, specific to power sector. It's very complex. There has been a lot of debate on this, and there is a very strong case. It's for the ministry to look at that. And last but not the least, although it is not a policy which the government has pushed down anyone's throat, but it is recommended that 7 to 10% of your IT budget must go towards enhancing of cybersecurity, not buying IT peripherals, enhancing of cybersecurity. And our experience with other international partners that we have, and some countries where the cybersecurity is pretty robust, is that by spending that amount, if it is judiciously spent on enhancing the cybersecurity, you will be able to prevent yourself and the infrastructure, critical infrastructure in the power sector, from a lot of damage. Thank you.